Shemai, welcome back to the latest episode of the Be Better podcast. Thank you to all of those tuning in and our regular listeners, both of you. I don't know, is there more than two? Hopefully. With me today for this latest episode, I have the amazing and awesome Tesh Randall from the Raglan Food Co. How's it going, Tesh? Kia ora.
Kia ora, Tim. Well, it's going very well. I'm really good, thanks. How are you going?
I'm doing always well at Grow Good Towers. We are just a force for positivity and energy and generally doing good in the world. So we never have a bad day. Never have a bad day here. Well, maybe occasionally, but we just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Now, before we start, we have to say also hello to your buddy on your forehead, which is Yogi.
My good mate Yogi. He's been following me around for nearly 9 years now.
So, g'day Yogi too. So for people who don't know who Tesh Randall is, or what the Raglan Food Company is, tell us who you are.
Well, I am a happy Whangaroa Raglan resident and have been for nearly 12 years. So living in a really lovely little surf town for people who haven't been here before. We're like 35 minutes from Hamilton on the west coast, lots of lovely surf breaks and cool, funky community with lots of artists and hippies and gardeners and dog walkers and all that sort of thing, yoga instructors. It's kind of like a mini Byron Bay. I often describe it as a little Santa Cruz. And so really enjoying being here. Raglan Food Co started very organically out of the community 9 years ago. Total fluke business, just making coconut yogurt at home, like to eat for breakfast, and offered it for sale to the locals on the local Facebook group, and it kind of took off and everyone wanted it, and next thing everyone's showing up at the garage door kind of wanting to pick up their jar of yogurt, and I was trying to scrummage all the glass jars I could from the recycling centre and from friends and scrubbing off the labels, filling them with yogurt. And so it was all, very, very small scale grassroots, doing it at home kind of business. And it's growing a lot from those days of making it in a saucepan. Now I'm making it in sort of 6,000 litre tanks, so
in lots of saucepans.
Yeah, very large ones. Built a factory. We've got a little factory.
As you do.
1,500 square meters just on the outskirts of town, so sort of 3 minutes from the town centre. Got a whole crew of yogurteers. We've got sort of 28 30 people. So we call them not musketeers, yogurteers.
I always feel that every company should have some kind of collective noun to describe the people that work there. I think yours is definitely up there. The other really good one is Genora. They call themselves the Genorables.
The Genorables.
I thought that's quite cool. We're so Genorable. I thought that's a really good one.
Genorable.
It's so Genorable.
That is pretty cute.
That is pretty cute. But I do like the yogurteers. That's up there. And so, but I seem to recall we have done a couple of events before. There's quite a cool backstory though as to how you first even started making coconut yogurt. So tell us about that.
Oh yeah. Well, there's just nothing around that you can buy at this time. So this is sort of 10 years ago now. And I've been vegetarian since I was 18. And then kind of on that journey to plant-based. So wanting to cut out dairy, being the main one, because dairy is in everything. And it's also very delicious. So it's quite hard to find alternatives that taste as good. And I was kind of keen to get something that was dairy-free, didn't trigger allergies. But there just wasn't anything. There was soy yogurt at the time, a Kingland soy yogurt, and it was just sort of like quite a glibbery texture. And it was like, well, if you can't buy it, maybe we can make it. And I was making kombucha at home, kefir, baking bread. And so doing the kind of hippie DIY thing anyway, and thought, well, I'll just make my own yogurt. Played around with lots of different recipes and tried to find something that was good, tested it on partner, family, friends, everyone, until we had something that was really nice. And then, it didn't feel like a sacrifice then, because giving up yogurt is a bit of a sacrifice because it is delicious. And it was like equally good or better. So
Yeah,
that was it.
I was just saying before we went sort of live with the recording, I've just had my afternoon tea of some Raglan coconut vanilla yogurt with a bit of protein powder in it, and
Yep,
it's
it's yum.
I genuinely think it's tastier than normal yogurt.
Yeah, I
So
think so too.
yeah, so go you. So none of the friends or family died in the testing
Not a
process.
one. Happy to report. Yeah, no humans harmed in the making of Raglan Food Co.
It's like, and people, the family were pretty responsive. They were happy. They were like, oh, Tesh, look, I can't eat another pot of yogurt. Can you just? Obviously, they were all on board with it.
They loved it. It was just an instant, like people would have a spoon of it and be like, man, this is good. And then they'd have another spoon, and it just sort of sold itself. And it's been that way ever since, like from that first group of people, there were 60 people who wanted to buy it when I first offered a couple of jars for sale. And then that first group of 60 all told their friends. And then, it's just been a really organic word of mouth sort of growth.
Nice. Super cool. Yeah, I guess it's quite refreshing, and I think it's just cool for and inspiring for people to know that sort of, I started it in my garage or in my kitchen. I suppose you're quite similar to Brienne from Matique, in that model of just started making a product at home in the kitchen, and let's just try it. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. Just from like a sales and marketing perspective, you sort of identified a challenge or somewhere where there could be room for improvement, but you actually gave it a go instead of sort of just complaining about it and still buying the crap that you didn't like, or not having it.
That's very much the Kiwi way.
It is, yeah. And I think and I think it just proves, like, if you've got an idea, just give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? You end up creating a really cool business that's doing great things.
I mean, the worst thing that could have happened would have been food poisoning.
Exactly.
In my case, but that happened.
But
hey,
that's
good. Yeah.
And so what's your role now within the company?
So now I'm the head of impact. That's my main role. So I take care of all the certification side of things. So we're Toy2 climate positive. We had been carbon zero for the last 4 years, and just this year we leveled up to climate positive. B Corp, obviously, which we're going to talk about today. I've done that, from the first audit. We have a community fund that I run. So we give out grants to people locally doing good things for social or environmental causes. People apply. We fund every quarter and sort of support them and get the word out there as well. We just started a Vibe Lifter podcast, because we also run a Vibe Lifter award program, and people can apply for a $2,500 grant for that. So anywhere in the country, if you're doing something really good for people or the planet, you can apply. And then we sort of share those stories and help them with what they're doing. We do a lot of different programs. We're cleaning up plastic from beaches all around the country. We're trying to get to 1 million pieces, still 60,000 pieces away. So I'm hoping we're going to get there over summer. And so I get to take care of that side of things. And then I'm on the board. I'm a director. So we have monthly board meetings and all that kind of governance side of things. And I also do a bit with culture, so team events and helping out with team stuff as well. So so I basically am doing the fun stuff now that I really enjoy, whereas I used to do everything. So, I've worked in production, I've worked in dispatch, I've done admin, I've done the accounts, I've done customer service, sales, like everything. I've done it all.
But I think that's good. And I think as a because did you found the business by yourself, or were you co-founder?
So me and my co-founder, Seb, did it together.
So I think it's good for co-founders to you need to know how do we ship stuff? Actually, is that a good way to do it? Is it the most impactful way to do it? Otherwise, I always love watching those. Well, I don't watch them all the time, but there's those programs where the CEO goes back to they go undercover.
Yes,
they go
I've
to the
seen
front line,
those.
and they are so shocked at the poor conditions that their staff have, and how none of the systems work that they've all they've all approved and agreed upon at a board level or at a senior leadership level. And until they and I just go, how can you become so disconnected from your, I guess, companies with thousands of employees?
They're so big.
It just shows the real lack of just that personal interest and connection in actually this is our sort of team. So I think it's always good when the boss has been through the ranks, as it were, so that you can turn around and go, look, I know that job sucks, but I did do it for 6 months, so I feel your pain. We're working on
Yeah,
doing the best that we can.
you
That's
can
cool.
relate.
Yeah.
That
And
definitely helps.
so what was your background then? Did you have any background in sort of food technology or any interest in food? Like when Tesh was growing up, was young Tesh kind of going, when I'm older, I'm going to run a really cool, successful yogurt based company?
Nope, young Tesh was not thinking about that at all. Although I've always loved food, and I used to do bake sales, like as a kid to make money. I'd do
Yeah,
baking and sell it on the side of the road with my sister.
yeah,
I've worked in cafes and restaurants, and I tried to be the marketing person for multiple yogurt companies because I really love yogurt. So I actually
right,
tried to hit up a bunch of when I had my own agency, and I've also had a copywriting agency. So I went kind of more into the brand marketing
yeah,
side of things.
yeah.
And I thought, oh, how cool would it be to just get free yogurt all the time? I should do marketing for yogurt companies. So I reached out to, I don't know, 5 different yogurt companies at the time and tried to pitch them to be their marketing person. A couple of them got back to me, but they weren't hiring or whatever. And so I was
Yeah,
like, never mind. But now I have plenty of free yogurt. So it's all worked out just fine.
Literally all the yogurt you can eat. Yeah. In
Yeah,
fact, I'm surprised you're not sick of yogurt by now.
I'm not. I still love it. Like it's still really good. And there's so many flavors that, you can
Yeah,
rotate through them. So it's not like you're just eating the
yeah.
plain one all the
To
time.
be honest,
But
I'm pretty stuck on the vanilla one.
yeah, it's the
I
best
do.
seller now.
Right.
People love the vanilla.
I'm doing my best.
It's good. Yeah, keep it up. Keep buying those jars. But I love going through one of my favorite things to do is to go to premium food shops. Like I've always loved that. So I used to walk around Nosh when we had Nosh
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Auckland. That was a while
yep,
ago. And Faro, and
yep.
I can spend hours in a shop like that, just looking at all the products, looking at all the packaging. So I've always been into that. And I used to be the marketing person for Giapo ice cream in Auckland. I don't know
Right.
if you know
No, I
them, but
haven't
it's
heard of them.
really, really delicious ice cream.
Mm.
So I did quite a bit for them as well, and ate lots of ice cream in the process. So yeah, an interest in food, but never thought about starting a yogurt
Yeah,
company.
yeah,
That was extremely, extremely random that this has ended up happening.
yeah. I bet there's a few people in the marketing departments in those companies that you reached out to going, we really should have given that lady a job.
Mm-hmm. Yep, especially some competitors. The Collective was one of them. I've hassled the founder Angus about it and said, you should have
Nice,
hired me.
nice. Yeah. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, I did give you fair warning. I did tell you I really like yogurt and I could really do some cool stuff for you, but hey, you knew best. Yeah. That's funny. So any food connections in your broader family, like any like mum, dad, aunties, uncles, in the food world? So you're literally
No, not
trailblazing
really.
all around.
Hospo, people working in restaurants
Yeah,
or managing restaurants, but no one was doing food products. Yeah,
yeah,
so that's not the background. But I had a really
yeah,
unusual background career anyway. Like I didn't go to school, I didn't go to university, I was homeschooled, I didn't do an OE. So I've been working full time since I was
mm,
15. And I've done heaps of different jobs,
yeah,
lots of different industries, and various startup projects along the way. So I've always
yeah,
been into business. That's been my thing.
yeah. Nice. And that wasn't a barrier in any way to sort of getting marketing roles, or do you feel like did you start, like you said, you started your own kind of gigs fairly young, so you had a portfolio of work or experience to sort of say, look, I've been doing this.
I've done so many things. Yeah, I've been the editor of a travel magazine for 8 years. I've published children's books and sold them into stores. I was buying and selling cell phones on TradeMe when I was 12. Like I've I've hustled all kinds of things. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Proper startup sort of CEO mentality. So yeah, you're pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not as prolific as yourself, but I remember me and a mate when we were at school, we started a car washing business when we were
Yeah.
maybe sort of 15, and it was sort of five. This is in the UK, so it was £5 for the outside, and then we were doing the outside, and then we were like, "Wow, we're missing the trick here. We could be cleaning the insides as well." And so,
Aha.
we took some of our profits and we reinvested in a little dirt devil, whatever called, little Hoover. Had that in our
Yeah.
backpack as we were biking around, and so, hey, do you want to? We'll do the inside and out for 10 quid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Just just
Five
door
extra quid
knocking.
right there.
Yeah, and just door knocking. Hey, do you want your car cleaned? We can come around
Yeah.
once a week or once a month, whatever. Yeah, I think it's good for people to give that a go.
Agreed.
What's the worst
Yeah.
that can happen? They say no. Don't
Yeah.
look again.
Move
Okay.
on to the next one.
The next one. Yeah.
Yep.
So so when did you start the company again? It was about
It was 2014.
2014.
Yeah, 9 years this year.
Nice. And so what was the first step then? Obviously you kind of realized you had a bit of a tiger by the tail. Okay, this is quite popular. We've literally flooded Raglan with coconut yogurt.
Yeah.
What did the journey look like from there?
Well, everyone was calling me the yogurt lady. So I'd go into town and people would be like, "Oh, are you the yogurt lady? Oh, hi, it's the yogurt lady." And that's still that people still ask me that all the time. Are you the yogurt lady? Which is cool. But yeah, so I went from that to hiring the local community kitchen. That was sort of the first step, like getting out of home, which is great because it's all food certified and so on.
Yep.
And a bunch of other local producers use that. People who have done baking and ice blocks and pies and all sorts of things.
Yep.
So using that, and then very quickly we were outgrowing that. Like we were there till midnight making batches of yogurt, like hand stirring these big pots. We got sort of 100-liter pots, custom fitted them with an urn tap on the bottom so we could hand fill the jars and hand screw on the lids and so on. And then started thinking about making our own mini factory. So we ended up building a sort of a mini plant in a shipping container. That was the next step. And then we had to find somewhere to put the shipping container. So we leased a building in town. It used to be a motor workshop, put the container in there. So we just leased a third of the building. And then we kept growing. So then we leased half the building and knocked the wall out of the container, built a production room, got more tanks, built a little office space. Then we needed more space again. So we built a chiller out the front and storage out the back and leased the whole building. So we kind of gradually extended over this building. And then that was also getting too small. So then it was, okay, we need our own space. So bought land outside of town in the Know My Business Park, which is just starting up, and built the whole factory like from a green field from scratch. So that was the kind of big jump. And yeah, remortgaged the house to do it, and then just went all in on the yogurt. So, and we've been here for a few years now, and it's awesome, like having our own space and being the landlords, and it's really made a difference. So we could level up quite a lot after getting in here.
Sort of masters of your own destiny without having to worry about
there was always some problem. And I mean, it was great being right in the center of town, but it also came with its downsides. Like people would just wander into the factory all the time, like, hi, we'd love to see what you guys are doing. And can we buy a jar of yogurt? And like, because we're just right there and people knew we were there. And then the trucks trying to come in and pick up yogurt. And there's all these pedestrians like crossing the road. And so it's actually quite nice being in a more commercial area.
Yeah. Hashtag health and safety. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Haven't lost anyone in a vat yet though.
No, thank God. Gosh, that would be awful.
What a way to go. So I mean, it's quite cool. I mean, literally, organic growth, because I think I guess loosely connected to that FMCG world through through helping companies with B Corp, or in a former life when some work with conscious consumers, we're talking to brands, and quite often it feels in the food and beverage sector, it's quite often that the brand that you see on the shelf is more than likely actually owned by some big conglomerate. And the sub brand that you think you're buying, that you imagine is Tesh and her partner and her mates making it, is actually quite a large commercial outfit. And it's more about, we see an opportunity in the market to launch a product to sell to people. And it's kind of like they just try and flood the market to capture it, whereas yours has literally been from the ground up, and it feels a bit more authentic and a bit more. And I think that, like I say, that story that you got behind it, it's not like we wanted to sell coconut yogurt to try and take down dairy yogurt because we could see there's a market opportunity. It's like, actually there's generally people who either can't eat that yogurt or want a dairy, dairy-free alternative, and you built it from the ground up. And I think that's just there's a depth to that. Which
that's the real deal.
Resonates with people.
Yeah, and then it's also cool that we've been able to keep it in Raglan, because that's been a big thing for us, like wanting to keep the business here, keep the jobs here, because it's a small community. It's quite rural. There's only sort of 4,000 people that live here permanently. Then more of a summer when all the holiday houses are full, but there's not that much year-round employment. It's quite hard for people to have a year-round job. It's very seasonal. So yeah, because we were looking at, oh, do we have to take it to Hamilton? Are we going to have to move it to Auckland? When it didn't look like we could get our own site. There wasn't any land available. There wasn't any big buildings to lease. You know, it's a tiny community. So yeah, so when this place came up, it was like, okay, we have to do this. Like, this is our opportunity. Otherwise, we have to move it. And like, no one wanted to move. Everyone wants to live in Raglan. So that's sort of So it is actually Raglan Food Co.
It is.
Yeah.
And so, what was it like? A farmer just was like, "Hey, I can sell you some land," or how did the land suddenly become available?
We were talking to a farmer at one point. We had a farmer, we were talking to a trust, we were talking to anyone. But this is actually in a new development. So it's called the Know My Business Park. So there's a bunch of there's storage sheds and there's a mechanic and so on. So it's, a bunch of companies in this one site that was being developed. It was a really long project. I think the guy spent maybe 10 years on the project. Yeah. So it was really lucky. So we got some of the last available sites.
Because I guess it's again, we'll get a bit more into the impact kind of stuff, but presumably, was there any trade-off in your mind between, this is a small rural community, and if suddenly it's full of industry and you're building a massive factory that's got a possibly detrimental environmental impact, but on the other side of the scales, you're creating employment in a community that can be potentially quite transient, and there's not many, good jobs in good companies. So yeah, did you have to sort of ponder any of that whilst you were thinking about? But obviously, you wanted to keep it. It's the Raglan Food Co. So yeah, we don't actually want to change it to the Hamilton Food Co. or the.
No, it doesn't have the same ring to it, does it?
Not quite as cool. Yeah. So was there any tension in your minds as you were sort of navigating that part of it?
No, I mean, like, it all just seemed positive. I didn't really think of any negative impact. I think, there's so much that we've given back to the community, and so many people that have come through here and gotten really good experience and then gone on to do other things. It's been a really nice stepping stone for a lot of people. We've had a lot of team members who have gone on to start their own businesses. They've been kind of like inspired, and they've got an entrepreneurial bent as well. And we've almost mentored them a little bit and then kind of sent them off to do something else. And I didn't really see any downsides. I saw a lot of downsides if we moved the whole thing somewhere else, but not many with keeping it here. The only things that are a challenge are things like attracting kind of higher level talent, like if you need someone with a really specific background, like a food technologist, for example, there aren't just heaps of food technologists sort of floating around Raglan looking for jobs. So you end up sort of trying to get people to move from Auckland or from Hamilton here. So we have had a few people that have done that. Our new operations manager moved down from Auckland, and and our supply chain managers also just moved over recently from Hamilton. So we've had to do that. But it's an appealing proposition because, you get to live in Raglan. So
I was going to say, it's like, I have to live in Raglan? Oh, okay. Yeah.
But some people are city people, it always surprises me. But there are people who are like, oh, no, I'd prefer to commute. And I'm like, why would you prefer to commute?
Really?
I live in Auckland. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
I work from home, but occasionally people will request a meeting at 8:30 or 4:30 in town, and it just one day every 3 months of sitting in rush hour traffic, I just cannot. I don't understand how people do it. Genuinely,
it's horrible.
It's horrible, and it's just the most pointless. I mean, sure, you get through a couple of podcasts, but I'd rather be doing that, taking the dog for a walk, rather than sat in a car sucking on the fumes of the car in front of me.
Same.
But hey, I think maybe it's become so normalized for some people that
they're just used to it.
It's just like, I'm so used to it, I can't actually imagine. It's almost Stockholm syndrome with the commute. Yeah, I love my captor so much. I can't see my life without it. Yeah, no, not for me. Not for me.
Nope.
So the idea of the coconut company or the food company was there, built mainly on the product side of things. So where did the idea of sort of purpose, business for good, and we'll talk a bit more about but you've already mentioned some of the impact that you're doing, but was that something from day one that you wanted to build in, or was it something that kind of crept in as you were going along the journey of creating the business?
It's just naturally there from the beginning. I think a lot of it just comes down to the type of person that you are, and like why why I wanted to live in Raglan is because I really resonated with the values here in the community. And like, people here care about waste, they care about trees, they care about animals, they care about the water. That's just sort of the type of person that wants to live in a place like Raglan. So I guess because we started here and then all our first hires were family members or hippie friends, that was really who we started with. Then that was just in the company from the beginning, and it was just sort of intrinsic to who we were. Yeah, so the sort of things we thought of doing were those sorts of things. So it just naturally evolved. And then we were able to do more and more as we got bigger, because we got more resources and so on. So we could put more into giving back. You know, to the point now where I can have a dedicated role as being head of impact. So yeah, I think it's just baked in.
Yeah. And so as part of your upbringing, was that sort of a consideration of the, obviously being homeschooled? I'm guessing a lot of the values that you have come from mum and dad, from the homeschooling and experiences that you had. Yeah. So
definitely.
What was sort of mum and dad up to as careers or professions when they were raising you? How did the upbringing, because as I said before we started, it seems to me there's two types of people that we tend to speak to. One is more similarly like yourself, like just from day one I've just been brought up to do good and think about other, you know, environment and people. And then there's others who, more like myself, who had some kind of moment of an epiphany going, actually the path I've been sent on and the story I've been fed about what does you know, work for you or should be a good life for you, actually isn't the right one. And it's typically quite a hard stop moment where you go, whoa, hang on a minute. So just unpack a little bit more about what was it that led you to be, because not everyone thinks like we do.
Yeah, that's true, you're right. So I'm definitely the first type of person. My family is very values oriented, and I suppose that was a big part of the reason of wanting to homeschool us. My parents are just good, hardworking Kiwis, really. Like, they're not big career people at all. My mum was full-time homeschooling us, so there's four kids. And my dad was working from home as an architect, and he's also a builder. So he kind of entrepreneurially decided that he wanted to be a builder after he'd only been an architect, so he wanted to actually design and build.
Right.
So he sort of did that and moved us all up to Dargaville. We were in Auckland at the time, and went and bought some sites of land up there and started designing and building. And he hadn't ever built a whole house before, you know, so it did seem quite radical at the time to my mum and so on. So he got into that. So he was at home as well most of the time. And mum is just a really kind and generous person. So she's modeled that for us from the beginning. Like just yesterday, I popped in to see her because she lives next door now in Raglan. And she was baking a cake for a friend whose husband had just passed away from cancer. And, you know, she was taking around dinner for the whole whānau and feeding them. And that's just sort of classic mum. You know, she's always doing something like that for someone else. And if we got birthday presents, you know, we had to handwrite thank you notes to everyone who gave us a birthday present. And we had our little jars. We had our savings, spending and giving jars for our pocket money. So we'd always put money in the giving jar and pick things to give to. And so that was, and we're all like that. So that the four kids, I'm the oldest. My brother works with people who have disabilities. So he coordinates activities for them at this lovely organization called HOHEPA down in Oh, you know them? So he takes them all on fun outings and teaches them music and does all these lovely things with them. And then my younger sister's working with elderly people in a retirement home in Hamilton. And my other sister teaches kids singing lessons, and they're all very caring.
Sort of giving
people. Caring. Definitely. That's a big part of our family.
Nice. And clearly, I suppose a bit of the entrepreneurial spirit maybe from your dad, that kind of, hey, I've never built a house before, but how hard can it be? It's just some sticks and some fluff, and I've drawn it, so I can only blame myself if I put the stick in the wrong place.
And he did it, you know, he built multiple houses in the end and sold them all, and so that was there. But we had a bit of a conflict of interest though, because he was working from home as an architect, and then I was wanting to run my cell phone business on Trade Me. and we had dial-up internet, and so only one of us could. So if I was on the internet checking my auctions, he couldn't take phone calls from clients.
Yeah,
I remember him yelling at me a few times, like calling out, like, "Get off the internet, Tesh! I need to take a phone call." And I'll be like, "Ah, oh, damn it!"
It's like, yeah, you are your own business. Get your own phone line.
Yeah, I wasn't big enough for that. I was only making good pocket money, really.
Oh, that's classic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Such a cool story. Good old dial-up internet. Yeah,
Yeah, I do not miss that.
No.
That sound, eh?
Yeah.
It's like a whole shebang before you can do anything.
Yeah, and faxes as well. I remember because my dad used to work from home, and you pick up the phone and there'd be a fax coming. Put the phone down.
Fax is coming.
Fax is coming. Whoa.
I remember that too.
There's probably a whole bunch of people who might listen to this and go, what are they? Faxes and dial-up internet. What are they talking about? There's also cassettes and VHSs. Go and Google it. Young people of today. It'll be a whole world that you. I remember with our daughter, she was probably, I don't know, 2 or something, and she was walking up to the TV screen trying to swipe the TV screen, because used to having a quick play on it.
Stop moving.
It's like all screens move clearly because that's the one that I've been introduced to.
Makes sense.
Oh, super cool. So yeah, sort of the purpose and doing good. Yeah, I think it's there's a real mix, I guess, of what we see of people doing B Corp. Some are clearly like values-driven humans who've built the business on values. I'll give a shout out to Nicola from Zay Bags. I don't know if you hang out with her. Yeah, similar kind of vibe. Generally, this business has been built around solving check out Zay Bags. So they Nicola works with weavers in Myanmar, so typically sort of disadvantaged females in rural communities. They weave the bags for her with these beautiful patterns, and she then imports and sells them in Australia and New Zealand, and then pays a really good wage back to those people so that they can get a better go at life. And so just like some businesses are really just, you can see, like, just cut them in half, you can see the values written in the middle. Whereas I guess that there are more coming into the B Corp community where maybe less values driven. This is, we're seeing that this is there's more of a marketing or operational thing here, and it is interesting when you sort of see the two. And when we're working with them, how some it's kind of like, we could do that, but that sounds a bit hard to do, versus oh wow, like we haven't thought about that. We're going to add that to our list of doing more good because we do that from day one. So in terms of B Corp, when did B Corp pop up on your radar as part of the sort of purpose doing good journey?
I'd heard of it, I'd seen it on products and heard people kind of talk about it in a general way for a few years, and then I think it was around 2019 that I was like, oh, we should seriously look into this, like what's involved, what's it about. So I started getting quite interested in it. I think it was actually after reading, that book from the Patagonia founder, Let My People Go Surfing. A really great book. I really enjoyed it. And I had a look into it, and I was like, oh, this does look really good. And then I sort of studied the framework a bit and thought, wow, this is quite comprehensive. Like, it just seemed more comprehensive than anything I'd looked at before, because we'd already done the carbon zero certification at that point. So that was very focused on, emissions, but not so much the rest of the operations. And so I started working towards it then, sort of 2019-ish, and then we certified in 2021, start of 2021. So it was probably like a year and a half of prep before the audit, and then there were also some delays over Christmas and so on. So a bit of a long process of getting there, and then we've just recertified a couple of months ago this year. So
congratulations.
So two rounds now, and then already starting to prep for the next one, because it's kind of fun. Like, once you get into it, you're like, oh, I want to increase our point score. What other things can we improve and do to increase our points? So it is motivating. Although I know the standards are evolving to change anyway. So, the point system as it is going to change. But
which is interesting because B-Lab are interesting because they're obviously you're not supposed to mention if you're the highest scoring or the first in a sector, and they sometimes get a little bit anti the points thing themselves, but
Oh,
I actually think most people I speak to like the points because deep down everyone has got a little bit of competitive edge in them,
oh
and
yeah.
they whether it's yes, you're comparing yourself to others, but like you say, it's actually, can you just be better than you were yesterday? And I
Yeah.
think actually having the points is a really useful way for you to know whether you're being better than you were, but also to benchmark yourself against other people and go, well, hey, how have they done that? And then, but instead of, yeah, but typically what we find is most people at that point then go, hey, can we have a chat? How do you do that? Can we
Yeah.
replicate that, rather than it being like a zero-sum game of, well, there can only be
Yeah.
one company that does that as a B Corp in the world. It's like, well, no,
Mm.
every B Corp can have a fair trade supply chain or what have you. It's like, let's learn how to go and do it. So anyway,
Yeah.
what
No,
do we know?
I like the system. I
Mm,
definitely have that competitive edge, but it's kind of like it's like positive peer pressure, which, there's a lot to
100%.
be said for the effectiveness of that. And for us,
100%.
like we certified at 96.7 the first time and then 111.2 the
Nice.
second time. And so I felt like, oh, cool, I've actually made a decent improvement. And then I want to get
That's
sort
a
of 120 plus next time. So
Yep.
it gives you a goal to work towards, I
Yeah,
guess.
I totally agree. So first time round, were there any? Yeah, so 96, like that's a really solid first time score. That's like real proof that you're doing some good stuff. A solid score. Were there any sort of surprises where you kind of maybe thought, oh, we didn't think that was worth any points, or we hadn't thought that might contribute to B Corp, or any just sort of surprises or highlights of that first time round?
There were so many things that surprised me the first time around. I think it was just because the depth of what they wanted to know was really, I was like, wow, okay, they actually want me to go find that out. Wow, I haven't thought about that before. Like there really were things. I remember that spreadsheet where it was like you needed to track the exact miles of each item getting to you. So all your ingredients and
Yep.
all your packaging and how many miles they've taken to get to you. I was like, wow, that's pretty comprehensive. And then who owns all the companies you're buying from? Are they privately held? Are they multinationals? What's the gender split in the company? What's the just the detail that was, I was like, wow, they really have thought about this. It wasn't like, it
Yeah.
wasn't easy at all.
Yeah.
Like,
I like to call it rigorous but achievable.
yeah, it
It's
was very
certainly not,
rigorous.
here's our money. We'd like a logo, please say how good we
No,
are.
not at
It's
all.
it's actually, okay, no, we have to be doing this. And yeah, it's not just, oh, of course we do that. It's like, show me. Yeah. Which is
Yeah,
why
so it's
I think
good.
it's people are coming towards it, because it is rigorous. Yeah,
Thorough.
it's thorough, and it's social and environmental, not just, like you say, yeah, toy is great,
Yeah.
but it's very specific. Yeah, versus more holistic.
Yeah.
And so where did you get the points increase? Was there like one particular initiative, or was it, lots of
It was
marginal
a
gains
bunch.
that led you?
Yeah. It was a bunch. It was probably around processes, actually. Like that was the thing because we put quite a lot of effort the last couple of years, since setting up a board, for example. So we'd never had a board. So we only set that up in the last couple of years. We created like a health and safety kind of working committee for
Yep.
improving all of that. We didn't have one of those before. It was done more informally. So I think that really helped us the last time around, just having more structure, more governance, more like checks around certain areas
Yep.
of the business. That definitely helped us gain points.
Nice. Because yeah, it's something that we always talk to people. The B Corp is a verification of what you are doing, but it's also an impact guide for you to work out where you could do better. And
Yeah.
you've just been a textbook example of that. It's like, verify the good that we are doing, work out where we can do more. And I guess it's do more good with what you can, without sort of destroying the company or breaking the bank.
Yeah.
What can we work on? What have we got the resource to do that is meaningful for us, that's going to be meaningful for our stakeholders? And then go again next time around.
Yeah. So for the next one, I put together a spreadsheet of here's all the areas we could gain more points if we wanted to focus on them. And I think I totaled up that we get an extra like 33 points if we did all of them, which would be a mega effort. So it's unlikely we're going to get all of them done. But and then we can kind of pick and choose the ones that we're going to put the energy and focus into before the next audit, assuming that by the next audit we still have the point system, because I think the new stuff's coming into play sort of early next year, maybe.
Well,
But I think it's
yeah,
going to be a gradual rollout.
yeah. The rumor I've heard is it might be pushed back a bit because I think they got way more feedback on it than they thought they were going to get, and
Okay.
I think it's been mixed, is my understanding. And yeah, talking to the B Lab team in Aussie, what they seem to be saying is for B Corps like yours or mine that have sort of built their impact around the current model, you might have a complete recertification cycle before you have to start thinking about the next one, so that you've basically
I
got
see.
possibly 6 years now for you to start thinking about the new one. Because yeah, I mean, we're a 3-time B Corp, so yeah, I've built my model on the current system, and so
Yes.
yeah, to suddenly have to unbundle
Change
some
it.
of it and change it, it's yeah. So that's my understanding. Yeah, don't hold me to account for that. But that's the rumor I've heard on the street, which I think would be
Okay.
and typically when they have updated the certification over the years, they have given a grace period to say, well, if you've already started on this one, then you can continue. However, on this date, in a year's time, if you haven't submitted on the current one, you will automatically be put onto the next one. So they're normally pretty good at navigating that. So yeah, watch this space, I suppose.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So you mentioned the board stuff, and that's a really interesting thing. Been talking to a few people recently. Main one, Sandra Smithall, based in Auckland. She approached me at a B local event in Auckland a couple of months ago and said, "Oh, you're the B Corp bloke." I said, "Yes." And she said, "Oh, well, you'll be able to tell me, where do I go to do a course on ESG and governance?" And I said, "That's a very good question. I don't know that there is one." And she said, "Well, I'm looking for one." So she specializes as like a professional director. And she said, I've looked for one as well. I can't find one. So we've started scheming on maybe creating a course for directors and CEOs on what does actually ESG and governance look like. And so curious what your path has been like in terms of like the makeup of your board. Because one thing I've certainly found with some B Corps who've got boards is the board doesn't really understand the B Corp, and they're still thinking in just minimize risk, maximize financial return, and then a couple of them have maybe got carbon in their head as like that's the big thing that you should be looking at. Where this one company, for example, that I'm thinking of, they're a tech company, and we work remotely. Our carbon emissions are basically nothing. There's no point us reporting that on a weekly basis for you as the board, because it's a waste of our time, when actually the biggest thing for us is maybe client selection, it's products. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. And so I think we're in this really interesting phase where we've got a lot of governance people, some of whom have no interest at all in business for good and purpose and not profit. Some who have got enough information to be dangerous and are just prodding at the wrong thing.
Enough information to be dangerous. I like that description.
And possibly a handful at the end who genuinely get it and have actually worked with a company. Because I believe you might have got someone on your board who used to be the CEO of a B Corp. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we're kind of lucky in that way because so the chair of our board is Leon Clement, and he was CEO of Sinlay, and he put them through the B Corp process, or sort of drove that certification process. So he understands B Corp really well, and really rates it and backs it, and that's awesome. And then our other representation is from our major investor, Pioneer, and they are going through the certification process themselves at the moment. So they're also gaining a sort of first-hand experience of it too. So we've got really good B Corp understanding and backing. I think everyone is into it, and we've made it sort of a foundational goal. It's like a pillar of our business strategy is to achieve at a really high level with our B Corp certification. So
nice. So it sounds like you've got a sort of a depth or a level of understanding. So and do you find, I mean, obviously without giving away information that you can't be giving away, but in general, the conversations at the board level, they're understanding the balance between purpose and profit. It's not just but teach the numbers. It is.
Yes, people do care about numbers. I must say
they do a lot. Yeah, look at the B Corp number, people. The B Corp number.
Yeah, that's the number
that's going up really quickly. It's really good. Yeah.
I've always been the person that I mean, for me, I've never really cared that much about profit, like with, different things that I've done. I'm very impact focused. That's sort of just me. But I need balancing out on that. So that's why Seb, my co-founder, is really good at balancing me, or, in the early days, because I probably would have given away all our profit and not necessarily reinvested enough back in the business. And so he would be like, well, actually, Tesh, we're going to need to allocate this over here. So we'll just, ease your back on those initiatives that you want to do. So I recognize you need the mix, but I do think that it's becoming increasingly important and increasingly valued at all levels to do this stuff now. And that's what I'm excited about, because it doesn't feel like it just has to be kind of one passionate person within an organization anymore. There's like actual pressure, coming in from all sides, from consumers, from new governance standards, from new reporting standards that people are requesting, banks even, like it's all moving in that direction. So yeah, I think everyone can see that and recognize that. And so finally, this sort of stuff is getting the attention that it needs and the importance that it needs. And it's getting a dedicated time within a board meeting to be looked at and talked about. And I'm sure that just didn't used to happen, like not so long ago. I would be very surprised if it was happening at many boards. So we have an impact section in every board meeting to talk about this stuff.
Nice. Yeah, I'd say the vast majority of companies, the board is still focused on
numbers.
Revenue and risk. Like where are we at risk? Why are we not making as much money as we could be? And I think this is the interesting, because obviously with the new purpose and stakeholder requirement for the Constitution, I think that this is where Sandra and I are really interested. Like there's a bunch of board members who are maybe working for companies or working on company boards where they've kind of gone, yeah, sure, go and do this B Corp thing. And then it's like that actually you now have a legal, a responsibility to uphold this Constitution and to actually think about this stuff. And I think this is where Sandra and I are really interested, is actually how many board members can actually think that way. It's less around, well, here's a flow chart of, because health and safety, it's kind of fairly logical, and we need to make sure that people are safe. They've been trained so that they don't do stupid things, and any areas where they could do a stupid thing, we put a barrier or something to prevent it. Was it the whole I can't remember I did a health and safety course when I was working in the construction sector myself. Mitigate, remove, or whatever it is. There's the three basic principles. But with thinking of purpose and impact, it's more of a spiritual, metaphysical consciousness thing. And I think that's the challenge, is getting people who've only been taught to think in numbers to actually think in a more holistic people, planet. And I think that for me is at the crux of what this ESG, because it could just be another course with, here's a checklist, have you polluted the environment? Have we done that? Okay, we haven't done that. Okay, that's a start. Hey, are we paying people enough money to survive? Well, some of them. Okay, well, it's like, well, it's deeper than that, and I think that's the tricky thing. But I think it's really refreshing to hear that, you've obviously got a couple of board members who are getting it, or at least, or maybe you're on the journey to getting it. And I think it's going to become more, because I think I would suggest Leon is probably one of the only people to, because I think he was on the board at Sinlay as well as CEO.
Yes.
So he's possibly one of the only directors who's been on the board
of both sides.
Who's been on the board of 2 B Corps. I mean, how many other people have transitioned between 2? I remember there was a lady at Kathmandu.
Not many.
I can't remember her name now. But she used to work for Toitu, and then she moved to Kathmandu. And this was about 5 years ago. Oh. I said to her, you are possibly the first inter B Corp transfer in New Zealand.
Yeah, interesting.
Because we haven't, we
haven't had enough of them.
No, it hasn't been enough of them,
and
enough at scale for possibly you to pinch the operations manager from Fix and Fog or whatever, or vice versa. It's like we haven't had that much cross pollination. It's all been quite vertically sort of siloed, just by nature of, well, you've only been around for a few years.
True. So that's so true.
I think there's going to be some interesting periods coming up as more and more B Corps come through. And there are, I look back and go, I am fundamentally unemployable. But when I was looking at trying to find a job with more purpose and meaning, there were only 2 B Corps in New Zealand.
Right. So it's like, is it this one or this one?
Yeah. Well, neither of which were hiring. It's like
right.
so a bit,
Options are slim.
almost, yeah, a bit like yourself. It's like, well, stuff it. I'll just make my own B Corp. I'll come
Mm.
and just start my own party instead of joining your party.
It's like you say, like all of the stuff, they're intangibles. And it's just such an interesting space to work in, like trying to put value on something that's innately intangible. There's this really good book by Rory Sutherland. It's called Alchemy. I don't know if you know it. He's a marketing guy.
I know
but
Rory Sutherland, yeah.
he talks about the value of intangible and how you might not realize, but it can change everything. So
yeah.
And it can. And I think this stuff has so much value, even though it's hard to put into a quantifiable, tidy little spreadsheet for people to look at. But if you took it away, if we took all this good stuff out of Raglan Food Co, all the values and all the good that we do and so on, if we just took it away, what would we be? Like we'd be an empty shell of a company.
Yeah.
So we'd make so it's just not, it's hard to define, but so important.
It is. And I think this is the challenge, because if you try and make the intangible tangible, it sometimes loses its magic.
Yeah, you take the magic out of it.
And I think this is the challenge in my mind for this ESG course is, how do you get, because most boards are made up of very tangible types of people. It's lawyers, accountants, insurance.
The numbers people.
It's their numbers, it's logic, it's like I said, it's spreadsheet. And actually it's not about that. It's what is the feeling that we all have knowing that we've made some cool impact today. Yes, we might be able to put a number on, okay, we gave out X number of free jars of yogurt, but how did that make those people feel? And what's the impact that that's had in that family, which has now resonated into another company, and the tendrils of impact that are going off in all directions that we will never be able to measure. But you do know that they're there. And I think this is the thing. It's
it's love, really. Like it's brand love, I meet people and talk to them, and they've had some positive interaction with us at some point, and it might have been years ago, but they haven't forgotten that. They've kept buying the yogurt because of that. It's it's a beautiful thing, but very hard to quantify.
And as I say this in one of my workshops, people won't remember what you had, they remember what you did and how you did it. But you can't measure that. You can measure, well, I had this amount in my bank account, but you can't measure because there'll be talks that you've given or something that you've done. There'll be hundreds of people who you have impacted, but they'll never tell you that they impacted you, and you will never know. But you can go, well, we sold 1,000 units of yogurt today.
Yeah. I'd love to have a fake funeral. I've thought about this multiple times. Like one of those funerals where
fake your own death.
where all these people come out of the woodwork and they're like, wow, and you get to hear all that stuff because you're still secretly alive. So you're actually listening in from your coffin.
Who's that person with the beard at the back there? I don't know. Looks a bit familiar though.
It's suspiciously like Tesh.
Yeah. It's got the same hat as Tesh. What's going on there? Yeah.
I don't know if I could pull it off.
Yeah, in Raglan you might struggle with such a close-knit community. Yeah,
a little bit hard.
And so tell us a bit about some of the impact stuff that you're doing.
Well, there's quite a range of things. We've tried a bunch of things as well that sort of have worked, and some things haven't worked, so we've ended up dropping them. But we have a few things for the team. So we have like a health and well-being fund. That was kind of a new idea. We didn't know anyone else who was doing one, so we kind of came up with it ourselves. So wanting to find a way to help people with things that fall outside ACC, because ACC is great, but only if you're injured. So more like preventative things like seeing a naturopath or a nutritionist or getting counseling. So we have this fund, separate bank account set aside for the team, and then they can apply if something comes up. It could be like an emergency dental expense, or one of the team needed like a colonoscopy, or those sorts of things. And then we can fund it, so we can either fully fund it or go halves with them depending on the situation. And that's been kind of cool. And people that I've told that to have said, oh, we might want to do something like that now. Companies, I've ended up kind of advising a couple of other companies on setting one up. And it's not particularly complex to set up or to run, but it's, it can make like a real difference for people who need it. And just the other week, or just last week, actually, I was handing out moon cups to all the female members of the team, because I was thinking, like, we have an all-female production team now, which was it's just sort of ended up that way,
So
like without really, it's been interesting to see it shift. We used to have almost all dudes, and then for a while it's sort of 50-50, and now we've ended up with all the ladies. I was trying to think about what can we do for them, what would be something that would, and so that's like reducing waste to landfill, and then also benefiting them and saving them money. And I just had a meeting today with this amazing local lady, one of the founders of the Extreme Zero Waste Recycling Centre here, which was quite sort of New Zealand leading in its practices. They've advised Auckland Council on how to do compost collections and that sort of thing. So she came over today, and we were talking about setting up a dedicated worm farm to deal with our like coconut fat waste from when we filter out our water, and we end up with a sort of sludgy coconut fat stuff. We're like, oh, maybe the worms can turn this into something nutritious. So that might be something we look to kind of co-fund with them and take them up our fat, and they can turn it into something good. We're doing all kinds of things.
What's the product you've got in? Is it Mitre 10 or Bunnings?
Yeah, I was just going to mention those. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. The braziers, the reforged braziers. Yeah. So that was another sort of B Corp initiative. Was like, oh, what can we do with waste? Where's the waste? Can we do something cool with it? And taking our empty steel drums, turning them into a product, selling them through Bunnings, so they're actually something useful, something beautiful. It was just going to scrap before. So they're nationwide. And then the Vibe Lifter program that I mentioned before, that's been really cool. We've done 3 grants so far, and then backing all sorts of different initiatives with that. And then this year we were working towards the climate positive with Toy2, so we only just got that a couple of months ago, so quite a bit of work and effort went into that. And then the other meeting I had today was kicking off our life cycle assessment process. That's something else for B Corp we've had sort of in the pipeline of, we'd really like to do that one day. So getting that underway. We've had quite a few meetings with them already, planning it out, and now we're going ahead.
Nice.
So doing that for 3 products to start with from our big jar range, our best sellers, the 700 grams. So there's always heaps going on.
Nice.
It's just finding the time really to do all the ideas that come up.
Nice. Well, it's a good place to be though, and I think once, like you say, but you if you've got a baseline of being values driven, and then using the B Corp framework, you kind of, your eyes are just open, looking for opportunity. And that's just a really good place to be. Do you find the staff kind of get engaged and involved with suggestions and ideas around, hey, could we do this, could we do that, or can we do this slightly differently? Is that a thing as well?
Yeah, I want to get more engagement going. I want to create like a dedicated B Corp action group. We haven't really had that. So out of this last audit, I was thinking that, I want to make a little team and we sort of prepare for the next audit together. I've sort of done the bulk of it myself and called in people here and there for their areas. But it's just, it's sort of extra workload, I guess, on top of the stuff they're already doing. But I think it would be more fun to, look at it together. But they're really great at suggesting things. I remember, just recently they were like, oh, we should be supporting the school, with excess yogurt. Can we start up a donation thing with them? And we're like, yeah, definitely, let's do that. So now we're doing that. We have started a rangatahi work experience program for youth. Nice. So we've had a couple come through and have like a paid sort of traineeship. So they can get some good work experience for their CV and something to help them get a job. So the team were all involved in that. They were looking after them and training them and so on. So we're hoping to have a couple more come through early next year. I had another team member make a suggestion about helping people living with disabilities to get work experience. So I was just chatting with a lady about that recently. She had a guy on the autism spectrum who was interested in coming and getting some work experience. So we'll see if we can make something work for them. And I don't know, there's always something popping up and people have ideas and
Nice. Just good people.
They're really good people. And they all care about different things. So that's the other thing that I found. We've ended up supporting a really eclectic range of things over the years because various people are like, well, I want to support the orangutans. So we've sponsored 2 orangutans for like 5 years because Chris, one guy who's now no longer here, was really keen on supporting the orangutan. So, that's sort of his thing. And others are like, well, surf life saving, we'll do something for them. And so, so we're spread across quite a few different things.
But I think that's kind of good.
Which is nice.
And I think I would definitely get a team together for the B Corp, because there will be people in the team who will want to be part of it. They're all
Yeah.
in a company like yours. They won't see it as like a burden or an extra responsibility. It'll be like, oh, this is so cool. I get to kind of close the loop on what I'm seeing in my role and how we can be a better company. That's typically what we find with people anyway.
Yeah.
And so I guess you sort of touched on it a little bit before, but that balancing purpose and profit, you would probably just be all purpose, don't care about the numbers. The last podcast that I recorded, not sure what order they're going to come out in, but yeah, James Stewart from Gemelli Consulting. So he is 100%. Well, he donates all of his profit to charity at the end of the year.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Small consulting business though, so possibly a bit easier to navigate that. But yeah, so you would clearly be all in on impact, but you've got the board and the numbers people kind of pulling you back. And does that generally you feel that that's working? Because obviously the more revenue you get, the bigger impact you can have. It's this constant juggle, isn't it, between, okay, well, we can either go all in on impact now, but actually if we double our production, then we have potentially double the revenue, which means we can. So yeah, is that something you've kind of come to terms with in general?
Oh, definitely. Like, I really see the value in it. You want to be a financially viable business. And I see so many businesses that have gone under. Like, since we've started, so many of my friends have had little enterprises that have, gone belly up. And it's so sad because they put all this energy and love into it and then it hasn't worked because the numbers couldn't work. So I've got an ever increasing appreciation for numbers, even though it's not like naturally my wheelhouse, but I've gotten pretty good with that side of things over the years as well. But then, in terms of my own values and what I do in my spare time, like I've created a charitable trust, the Values Trust, which I set up nearly 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, with 2 other trustees. And so I'm spending all my extra time and money is all going into the trust and just all for good projects that we're doing with that. So we've got 3 focus areas, the 3 C's: climate, creatures, children's literacy.
Nice.
So so I'm funneling everything I'm making out of the business into the Values Trust. So very similar probably to the guy you were just talking about, James Stewart, who I haven't met. And probably similar to, I think, Brienne's doing something quite similar, right, with her foundation. And which is really cool. So it's really nice to see more of that sort of thing happening, I guess. Like, people are just wanting to make it all about giving back, which was awesome. So I guess the business needs to stay viable so we can keep employing people and keep growing and keep doing all the things that we're doing. And then I feel like putting that sort of success into something good is the satisfying part.
Nice. Super cool. I mean, you're a poster child B Corp in many ways. Atik has always been one of my favorites because they were pretty early on in the piece. But I think yours is just another brand similar to Atik's, where I sort of say to people, look at Raglan Food Co, look at Atik. They're both really hard to hate because you're not doing anything bad.
Well, I wouldn't agree, because it's so hard to not do anything bad. Like, that's what I've realized. Like, you can't any activity, we're using refrigerant for the chiller and we have trucks delivering our yogurt and like there's plastic that things come wrapped in on pallets that we can't get rid of because that's how they ship it to us. Like, so I can still feel guilt about that sort of stuff because I know we do have a footprint. We are creating emissions. We're not, it's, someone has a line, maybe this is Seb's line, but something about like, an elephant walking in the forest is always going to snap some twigs, something to that effect. That's a classic Seb line. And just because you're growing means you're going to end up doing something, even if you don't want to and you're trying really hard not to. So so I know we will be having some negative impacts as well, but hopefully we're balancing that out with all the other stuff we're doing.
But I think you're aware of it and you're doing the best that you can. And I think that's what I mean. It's like
we're certainly trying.
Your companies, everything you've talked about today is like you've clearly got a really good lens on where you can be better, and I think that's what I mean. It's like, because Atik is not a perfect company, but it's pretty hard to hate them because there's a lot of what they do is the intentionality behind it and the scale of the impact that they're making is so good. And I would put you in that same boat. The intent and the scale of where you're doing good and how you can do more good. It's it's just really cool. So
Yeah,
don't
the
feel so
intention is a
guilty
big,
because
yeah,
you know you're doing so much already. You're doing so much more than most other companies in the world. We're still at only, I think I looked today, 7,200 B Corps. It's still like 0.01% of the world is even
yeah.
thinking about doing the good that you're doing already. So you're
It's just we've got so far to go. Like it is a bit discouraging when you think about it. Like, we're doing our tiny little bit, and then yeah. Anyway, when I think too hard about climate change and everything that's happening, it does start to get a bit,
yeah.
can be a bit overwhelming. There's just so much to
Yeah.
do. Mm.
Just you can just do what you can do, really.
Yeah,
And
that's it.
again, don't underestimate the influence that you will be having a massive influence. There's probably 1,000 people eating your product going, I want to do something like this, whether it's a mayonnaise or I don't know, whatever, or maybe another yogurt company. Like just don't underestimate. And because I know on your website you've got a really cool impact page.
Yes.
We were working with a client the other day, and they said, "Oh, we want to do something like that, like what Raglan Food Co are doing." I was like, "Yeah,
Oh, that's nice.
you should totally have a one page just with all your impact." I mean, we advise that to everyone. It's like just put
Mm.
it up there. Be proud to highlight the stuff that you're doing, because people want to
Yeah.
know that you're doing some good stuff. Yeah.
Although there's the flip side of that at the moment, and I don't know if you've seen this with the other B Corps that you talk to, but there's that side where, because people are getting slammed, so ruthlessly these days, like literally cancelled over whatever thing they've said or done that wasn't quite right. And someone told me a phrase for it recently. I hadn't heard it before. I think it was green hushing or green shushing. Yeah, I hadn't heard of it before.
Yeah.
That's the one. And so purposely not talking about the things you're doing, just in case the things you're doing aren't good enough, and then someone has a go at you for them. So that's real shame. I think that's such a negative atmosphere,
100%.
and we shouldn't encourage that.
No, but you're always going to get those people, and it's like my reply to that is always, don't read the comments on stuff.
Unless you want to feel depressed.
Yeah. It's like there are people who just want to go out of their way to make you feel bad, and there's always going to be but if you can, and I think this is the thing, if you can say, well, no, hang on, we are a certified B Corporation, we are in the top 0.01% of businesses globally at measuring and reporting our social and environmental impact. Here's all the stuff we're doing. You tell me where we can do better. Come and be an advisor. Come and sit in on a board meeting, and you come and give us 5 ideas. We'll look at them. They won't have 5 ideas, because they're those kind of people who just want to tear stuff down. And you're always going to get them. But my advice to companies that we're working with, and B Corps in general, is if you can tell the story, if it's authentic and it's transparent and it's true and it's good, it doesn't, if it's not perfect, that's okay. But explain why it's not perfect and explain why you can't fix it. Because sometimes it is systemic. It's like, there is no other solution. This is the best that there is. I mean, Steve from Eagle Protect's a great example of that. B Corp #1 in New Zealand, they sell single-use disposable rubber gloves.
Yes, I remember this one.
If when you're making your products, I imagine you have to put rubber gloves on.
Probably using some gloves, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so as a consumer, would I rather you and your production team are wearing rubber gloves so that I'm not going to get possibly salmonella or E. coli, and for that you're going to have to produce some landfill, or would I rather there's no landfill and possibly 1 in 1,000 people get some awful
horrible disease
from your product, which is going to end up with you being shut down. So there is a hard barrier there to which you can do no more good than be using the best glove that you can, which would be Steve's. But I know that Steve is working on programs to try and develop other forms of barrier technology that isn't a disposable glove. But at the minute,
that doesn't exist.
So don't hate the player, hate the game. And it's they're doing the best that they can. And if you want to come and be a part of that solution, I'm all ears. But don't throw rocks at me because it's not perfect. Because there is no 200-point B Corp. No one has won B Corp. There is no company that can just go, oh,
yeah, we've achieved everything.
We are holier than anyone and all and thou, and so it's like, I think
a journey.
Keep telling the good that you're doing, do it authentically, and explain where you can't do any more good, and that's all you can do. And the haters are going to potate, and let them potate. And what do they know?
Very true.
Cool. So finishing up then, what does being a B Corp mean to you?
To me, it means that we're doing the very best thing that we can, given available options, to make sure that we're actually making a difference. So it's like a tangible way of tracking the difference that we're making. And it's the best framework that I've found to do that. I don't think a better one exists. Yeah, so I'm into it. And I've told so many people to, do it as well and look into it as well. Because I really think it is positive. If you implement the suggested changes, it's going to make a positive impact. It's like unavoidable, because they're actually genuinely good ideas. And the first time we went through it, there were heaps of things that prompted us to think about that we hadn't thought about before. And now we have all those things in place and we're better for it. Like, it's kind of like business coaching or business consulting, but very practical. So I think it's great.
100%, cannot agree more. And so looking to the future, what does the future look like for B Corp, do you think? Looking 10 years maybe into the future?
The B Corp itself. Well, I'm hoping that we just get to a point where it's just the norm and it's just expected. Like, it's just sort of the standard for having a good business, and you're kind of almost looked down on in that kind of positive peer pressure way if you're not one, because people are like, oh, you haven't become a B Corp yet? Oh, well, okay, why have you not done that? And yeah, it's almost like you have something to hide or something. That would be, I don't know if we'll get there in 10 years, but that would be the goal.
Like a good dent. I'm looking at getting some t-shirts made up with just the slogan, do you even B Corp, on it.
Yeah, that's good. That's funny.
just to start that positive peer pressure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what does the future look like for Raglan Food Co? You're committed to Raglan, clearly. There's no move going to happen. But what's the future look like?
Keen on moving at all.
I know not so long ago you had the aioli products that you've launched. So
the mayo and the aioli have come out.
Anything else that you can tell people about, or is it all secret squirrel product development? Can't tell anyone.
Quite a lot of things are secret squirrel, but the big news at the moment, which we're just sort of starting to tell people about, is launching in the US. So literally this month, our first product's going out into some stores in the New York area. So we've been working towards that for 4 years now. It's been a really long journey. We've hired a GM over there, Elizabeth. She's really lovely. We found a production partner over there as well. So, so we're not shipping it because the freight would be ridiculous and definitely not good for emissions. And it's pretty exciting because it's a big, exciting, cool market. We've registered as a B Corp over there as well. So committed to the same standards for the US side of things. And just four flavors to start with. We're going to see how they go and see what the feedback is from people. But hopefully it's going to be a hit, because there does seem to be a gap. The stuff over there's lots of options, but they don't taste that great. So we think our taste is definitely superior.
Nice. You got the secret, the 51 herbs and spices, whatever it is, KFC secret.
Way less than 51. Our yogurt's pretty short on ingredients, really, compared to KFC.
Yogurt,
but
vanilla. Put the two together, away we go.
Pretty much.
That's super exciting. It must feel a little bit surreal, maybe, going from just making it in your
tiny
kitchen.
Little Raglan.
Raglan to the world. But and do you think, the whole brand NZ, brand Kiwi,
it's a plus.
I feel that's going to be, from this small town on the country that misses most maps, that people don't even know that it exists.
Yeah.
To your deli in New York.
Here's some yogurt,
with your story and the backstory and how starting in the kitchen. I think the Americans will really appreciate your the backstory.
They love a startup story. It's classic Shark Tank, which I've always wanted to go on, just because it looks so fun.
Just throw yogurt at them. Hey, take that.
Have a taste. Yeah. But others have done it really well, like Vix and Fogs. Launched really successfully in the US. Lewis Road Creamery has done quite well. So I guess we're following in the footsteps of people who have done it. And hoping we can do it too.
Nice. Well, I have no doubt, based on what you've achieved and success to date and how you're just approaching it in general, that it will be a huge success. I don't have many friends in New York, but I did speak to a film company the other day who are almost a B Corp in New York. I will message him and say, hey, go and tell all your friends. Go check it out.
Yes, please.
Raglan Food Co yogurt in your nearest deli. Super exciting. Hey, really good to chat. That's all I've got, unless there's anything else you want to delve into, but I feel like we've covered a good amount of ground.
Yeah, I think we covered heaps.
Yeah. No, I just love your work, love what you're doing. Love your approach to just being better over time. Like I say, you're a textbook approach to B Corp. Just get in there, get it done. Oh wow, there's some stuff we could do. Let's go do it. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. And yeah, go you.
Oh, thanks, Tim. That was fun chatting.
Yeah, likewise. Cool. Oh well, catch you soon.
See ya.
Hey, it's Tim here, that B Corp bloke from Grow Good. If you want more content on purpose, B Corp, how to do more good in the world as an individual or a business, then you know the drill. Hit the like and subscribe. Check out some of our other videos. They're probably floating around here somewhere. You know how it works. Thank you so much. See you next time.